Dear Chairman Taylor and honorable members of the committee, my name is Araceli Garcia, and I am an Education Policy Fellow at IDRA. We support SB 2066, which came out of a year-long Texas Early Childhood English Learner Initiative. Most states, including Texas, refer to students with a home language other than English as English learners, English language learners, or as students with limited English proficiency. TEA currently uses the term English learner. At first glance, these labels may seem neutral and plainly descriptive. However, a closer inspection reveals that these terms are deficit-based, meaning they define students by the knowledge they lack rather than the strengths and abilities they already bring into the classroom. This deficit understanding of students' abilities contributes to school tracking that often limits their access to critical learning opportunities such as college-level coursework. Because emergent bilingual students are seldom viewed as college material, only 1 in 10 are deemed college-ready at graduation by TEA. Coined and popularized by Dr. Araceli Garcia in 2008, the term emergent bilingual focuses on students' unique potential for bilingualism and biliteracy. The terminology ensures that we take an asset-based view of students' learning capabilities as they simultaneously acquire a new language in school and build on the valuable knowledge of their home language. Updating this terminology in the Texas Education Code will not lead to compliance issues with federal law. Many states already use varying terms for English learners without compliance issues, including the Illinois State Agency for Education, which adopted the term emergent bilingual in 2018. Moreover, in the lifetimes of some of you on this committee, young emergent bilingual students face discrimination and even school beatings for speaking a language other than English in the classroom. Now is the time for Texas to build on the advancements made in HB 3 and continue to lead in bilingual education terminology and high-quality programs. When all Texas students are served and supported by our schools, the entire state will reap the benefits. For these reasons, we ask you to please adopt SB 2066 to use the term emergent bilingual for students learning English in addition to their home language. Thank you.
I'm just curious if using different terms, I mean, is it the fact that we call them English language learners is causing the problem with when you talk about college and advancement and all that? Is that really causing the problem, or is it attainment levels?
Well, it's a whole host of issues. Some of it has to do with how we fund these programs, but a lot of it starts, and this isn't a simple solution that could create a big impact, because we know that student engagement largely has to do with how we view students and what we tell them they're capable of, what we tell them they can attain. And if we're already labeling students as limited English proficient, we still have teachers across the state who call their students their little LEPs. LEPs, right? And so if we're already speaking in the diminutive, if we're already calling them limited in their capacity of speaking English, we're sometimes inadvertently limiting the possibilities and the things that they can attain. So by calling them emergent bilinguals, we're focusing on everything that they can attain, everything that they can add to our state, and everything that they can take back with them to their communities.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Ms. Garcia, I don't know if you heard a few minutes ago, we were having a debate on a bill having to do with investing money. And at one point, when Senator West was asking about the diversity of the fund managers, I recall that the gentleman who was sitting where you're sitting said that the terminology in the investment world was emerging. And so it seems that this is more of a terminology that is recognized in the business world. And what you're saying by saying emergent bilingual, you're also encouraging them to maintain their ability to speak their native language. Because for many of us, I grew up with many of my father's friends, fortunately for my parents when they came, there was no forgetting or not knowing Spanish because that's all they knew when they got here. But many of his friends said that, and my sister-in-law included, she was put in a closet because she spoke Spanish in school. And just, you don't speak Spanish here. And so the issue is that you're saying, let's remind them how good it is to be bilingual. And Dr. Hinojosa this morning talked about how important it was and how successful those kids who were biliterate, not just bilingual, but biliterate. So I guess what you're saying is that the simple terminology can have an impact because it sends ripples throughout everyone who who receives it, who reads it. It's not just the student, but it's the teachers who engage, it's the administration, it's everyone that sees it, that we value this student as someone who's going to be bilingual. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. And this bill builds on the good work that you've already passed out of this committee just now, SB 560. It combines with all of these things so that we have really a strong education program for these students, because as I said, this is 20% of the population. You all have in front of you what percentage of students in your own districts are emergent bilinguals, and maybe some of you are surprised to see that it's a high number. Some of you have in the 30%. That's 1 in 3 students in your district who is this student. And so when they're not being supported and when only 1 in 10 of them is deemed college ready, it hurts our entire state, and it will hurt our state for generations. And this bill could really solve and help alleviate that.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator Paxton has a question.
And this question could be for you or for you, Senator Menendez, either one. But just very specifically, this bill is about terminology. It doesn't change a definition.
Nope.
It changes a terminology from a deficit-based terminology to something that is a positive terminology. Right. And I would simply say that I do think for children that labels are very powerful. Mm-hmm. The psychology of that is very well established, and I think that we can do things that close kids down or open them up. And I think, it doesn't change a definition. And I think that is important.
Yes.
Because this is not in any way that, and you can confirm or deny, minimizing the need to learn English.
Of course not. No, as a matter of fact, by using the word bilingual, I believe that we're actually setting an expectation. Mm-hmm. We're not just saying you're going to learn English. We're saying you're going to be bilingual. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something, Senator Paxton, and I'll be happy to have you as a co-author. When your parent walks you to your first day of kindergarten, and you know that you will not know how to communicate with the other kids, you're not looking forward to being there. It's not just the normal fear of having mom or dad drop you off. It's just like, what the hell am I going to do here? I don't understand a word they're saying. And so it definitely, you're going to be very susceptible to the way people treat you and what they call you.
Well, I just want to affirm that that labels are very powerful, and almost anything we say can be said in a positive way or a negative way. Mm-hmm. Almost anything. Right. And would you agree?
I would 100% agree. I think that the psychological aspect of it is huge. There's ways to reinforce things positively and ways to reinforce things negatively. We've seen that in the past people were punished, and I'll say personally, I didn't speak English when I started school, and my uncle, who's less than 60 years old, remembers being hit with a ruler on his hands by his Mexican teachers who spoke Spanish and spoke English with an accent, and they were punishing Mexican students for speaking Spanish in the classroom. So this isn't an issue about race or anything like that. It's about the tone that we set in our state for bilingualism, the tone that we set for diversity and how we value that. And really it's about, we're living in a more global society. We're going to need a bilingual Texas. We're going to need a multilingual Texas. And if we don't set that using the correct language, using asset-based terminology, encouraging an entire movement of how we think about these students, how we treat them, and the expectations that we set for them. I know earlier we talked about expectations and high expectations as being critical in education. We won't be able to achieve that. And SB 2066 lays us out and puts us on the path for that.
Well, I think there are two parts of it. There's sort of the maybe subconscious way that we might look at someone else when we use a label. But I think, personally for me, I think the more powerful impact of that is how an individual perceives themselves.
Right.
By the way other people talk about them, especially children, because they're so shaped by how other people think about themselves. They define themselves by those things. So I'd be delighted to co-author.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here. Appreciate
Thank
your
you so much.
insight.